on, everybody? It's your buddy, it's your pal Spaz Phoenix, the YWC reality check, and you don't see my pretty sexy face, so you know I'm not alone. It's not quite NXT, but we got Mr. Jake DeMarco. What's going on, buddy?
What's going on, broski? Glad to be back and ready to go ahead and talk a quite interesting bit of fantasy wrestling. You know?
Yeah.
Could be becoming a reality, but we'll see what happens.
I mean,
we don't know yet.
The worst part of fantasy booking is we always come up with better things than any of the companies give us. So we're shooting ourselves in the foot, essentially.
And then somehow they end up making you feel terrible. You know, WWE reports coming out today, not them officially, but, you know, there's reports about WWE that the reason that Bray lost at Mania was because he requested to have time off because he was going through severe mental issues and depression.
See, I didn't want to react to that because I didn't know how accurate it was. And it's sort of one of those, on the off chance that it's not true, we don't want to be the fans that suddenly make it true.
Exactly, but with how bad the Mania booking ended up being and how they started the match with the Brody Lee tribute, it really does kind of offer some credence to that theory. But
well, if he wanted it to be a tribute to his friend and it ended up being crap. So
yeah, everything was fantasy booked much better than what we got, as you were saying. So
you mean what? You mean you didn't like Alexa Bliss on the box-like structure
with the goo oozing from her orifices? No.
Well, the only problem with that was it wasn't my goo.
And
Anyways,
Pornhub.
Anyways, so initially we were going to be using this time to talk about WrestleMania Backlash, but we're not doing that. You know why? Because WrestleMania Backlash looks like shit.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about
anything that's semi-interesting is blatantly predictable. You know Cesaro's not going to win. The match will be good, but come on.
My thing is I'm sort of picking out, like, hey, what are just the people that I like? I like Rhea Ripley. I like The Miz. I like Damian Priest. They're going to be put in lackluster scenarios, and I'm going to cry a little bit.
Yeah.
So instead of trying to make ourselves believe that that's going to be a good pay-per-view, instead we're going to come here tonight. We're going to talk about a guy that just left the sinking ship in the form of Daniel Bryan. I guess we have to talk first about like how he left. He left like all the rest.
Not on top, but by going out on top, I guess you could say.
I was going to say like he had a really good WrestleMania match that he was adamant himself at some points that he didn't want to be in because he wanted it to be like the Edge Roman champion Rumble winner, and sort of we had fantasy booked at the time that he was going to go maybe up against Jay, and then Jay got thrown in the Battle Royal that was on WrestleMania SmackDown because WrestleMania was 2.5 days long.
Yeah, unfortunately.
But no, like you talk to every wrestler or like every like journeyman wrestler, they say, oh, well, if you're gonna leave, you figure out who the top guy is and you put them over on your way out. Well, who's the main guy? Like all due respect to Lashley and Drew McIntyre and not so much Braun Strowman, it's Roman Reigns.
Yeah,
and he put Roman over. Like he absolutely put Roman over on his way out.
There's no ifs or buts about it. There's just no way that Roman isn't that guy.
Yeah, Roman is the reason, especially now with the Jimmy stuff that we'll have to talk about in a different video. Like, he's the reason SmackDown is the good. We've gone from NXT is the only good show to just simply Raw is the shit show.
Well, Raw has gone down in the ratings. NXT, unfortunately, has dropped down as well.
Yeah.
I hate to say that and see it, but AEW dropped down this week by 50%.
I was going to say it's across the board.
The only thing that went up was SmackDown.
Yeah. I will say my bias is being what they are towards NXT. I will admit that AEW's always been a bit ahead, right? But both shows, as soon as they split, as soon as NXT went to Tuesdays, they both came out swinging, and both just fell after that. So you have to imagine it was just the curiosity factor that first week, because we know AEW, congratulations to them, went over 1 million and all that kind of stuff. But NXT got a good strong number again, and it sucks right now because, like, to me, NXT and AEW in a quite a different way, but like both shows are hitting like harder than they have in a while, and both of them are falling while they're hitting harder than they have in a while. It's really bizarre. But turning to SmackDown, turning to Roman Reigns, the tribal chief, the head of the table, the current reigning, defending champion, put over by Daniel Bryan on his way out. And little did we know at the time that it was real as hell, and his contract was over, and that's about it. And it's surprising and underwhelming in a way, but it's also very Daniel Bryan in a way, to just sort of like do the work, and just sort of quietly step away. Because
that is Daniel Bryan in full essence. That epitomizes Daniel Bryan's character and who he is and was as a wrestler. Now, what kills me though is that he said, and it is partially due to the booking, and not that he didn't win. He said it wasn't about winning to him, but the way that the match concluded, and I can certainly see why, like the double stack pin and leaving some controversy to it. But he said he went out there and it just didn't feel the same. It didn't feel right to him. And
didn't he say something like when he had the big "Do you believe in miracles" moment a couple years ago? Like that felt like a Daniel Bryan match. He felt like he felt like Daniel Bryan wasn't in a Daniel Bryan match.
Exactly.
And that must be terrible, because everybody else must be looking at you saying, like, what do you mean? You're the main event of WrestleMania. How can you not be appreciating this? But, like, I get what he means, because I
understand it exactly. In spades, tenfold.
Because with no disrespect to him, I was hoping they wouldn't make it a triple threat, because I was very intrigued by, like, we finally got this Roman Reigns that we can get behind.
Yeah,
obviously, for many, many, many reasons, I'm going to be behind Edge. Obviously, hometown boy. Obviously, the comeback story is amazing, even though it happened in front of no crowd.
Exactly, but this was and they had the heels just win all the way through. Lashley won for no discernible reason. And
one very definable reason. But anyway.
Yeah, well, but.
Well, you know why the main event of night one was so important. We've been saying it for a long time. We have to do the podcast eventually on how, like, identity politics is a cancer in pro wrestling.
Well, they even said with, like, the cancel culture stuff, because today Charlotte, all she did was like a tweet that Gal Gadot posted about a stance on Israel, and people went nuts ripping Charlotte apart. And then she took it down, and she instantly covered her ass by pulling a me and being like, "Oh no, I didn't mean to hit like. It was a pocket like," which is bullshit.
Yeah, but just ask Jackson Riker. You're not allowed to have an unpopular opinion on Twitter.
Well, that's the point, though. But that's what I forget who chimed in. Someone else chimed in after that and said basically that the same thing, being like, "This is the bullshit that you need to stop." People can't have a differing opinion, and they're right. So.
No, it's not that they can have a different opinion than you. It's they can't have a different opinion from what is the decided popular opinion.
Yeah, that's my point.
But anyways, we're gonna do a video like that another day. I'm sure you and I have been talking about it for quite a while. Let's be real. But it is probably the most for YouTubers, podcasters, content creators. It is probably the most cookie cutter thing you can imagine to be like, oh, where's this guy going to go next? Who do I want to see him face? So guess what we're going to do, Jake? We're going to talk about where Daniel Bryan might go, and more to the point, who do we want to see him face? And I've chosen 5 at random. You've chosen 5 at random. We've both got a couple of honorable mentions in case we've got one that doubles up. So by the end of this, we should have 10 decent matches available to Daniel Bryan outside of WWE.
Yes.
Now, we both agreed that there's one person that the whole world is going to say should be on this list.
Yeah.
And I said I wasn't going to add him. You sort of said you didn't intend on adding him either. We will mention him as an honorable mention because he's carrying about 100 belts right now. He must be compensating for something. But I will say Daniel Bryan versus Kenny Omega would be fun.
Oh, it would be a great match, no doubt. Absolutely.
It's one of those things where even though I've been pretty honest that like I watch a Kenny Omega match, I enjoy a Kenny Omega match. I'm still at that I don't understand the god status some people have him at stage.
Yeah,
but
I never saw him that way either, but
there is an element of it where, you know what, I'll enjoy the match because the match in ring will be fantastic, and I know that there's enough people out there that aren't me that will get so much more out of it that you can take a small amount of positivity with that as well. Like when, what's a good example? Before I got on the train with Daniel Bryan in the early days of his career in WWE, when I sort of found him a bit annoying, I watched the Daniel Bryan Super Cena show where he basically went over Triple H while he was already broken, took a sledgehammer to the face, and still won a triple threat match at the end of the night. I made a video afterwards saying he was more Cena than Cena, but that wasn't the popular opinion. The majority of the world loved him. I could enjoy their enjoyment in like a secondhand type of way.
And that was what.
And I think a lot of people for Kenny Omega would be that now. And I don't. And it sounds like I'm backhanding Kenny Omega. I'm not. The guy's a fantastic wrestler. Obviously, he's made a hell of a career for himself. He's not on the top of my list. Is about the only nasty thing I'm going to say, and that's even with that being said, like he's got a triple threat match coming up soon at Double or Nothing that I'm looking forward to because there's 3 guys in that match that I find interesting.
Exactly, and it really, we know the outcome, but how they're going to get there is certainly intriguing.
Anyways, but no, we'd be idiots if we didn't acknowledge that a lot of people will think Kenny Omega should be on this list.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm going to let you go first. Pick somebody at random off your list. And as I said, you've got some bonus names, I've got some bonus names. So if we double up on a couple, we'll pull the reserve team off the bench, so to speak.
Yes.
So who you got?
My number 1, well, actually not my number 1, but my number 5, I should say, really, is Eddie Kingston. The build-up to this would be incredible. Face or heel, Eddie would have the promo game of his life. Yeah. And this would just be stellar. Plus the fight in the ring with how far Eddie's willing to go and how much abuse he's willing to take, and Daniel's never give up attitude. I think that would be just exciting and just fun. Just harken back to the, Shikara type feel, days of that, stiff style and the real, hardcore thug kind of commentary we could get from these two. It would be hilarious, but so enjoyable.
It's funny, as soon as you said that, I thought these two guys are so different, but they could tell such a similar story in promo, because Kingston will come out there and be like, yo, let me tell you about the hard life and, the scrapes that I've had to go to, all the little dives that I've had to go to try and scrape myself up a reputation to get to where I am now. And you could have Daniel Bryan, not in a sarcastic way, but in a very real way, be like, do you think I haven't done the same thing? Do you know what company I just came from? You could do one of those. Like, do you think a lot of guys like me get as far as I got in that company? Like, he could do a whole lot of that company stuff, which is, and I'm sorry, like, I hate it usually, but it would work in this case.
It would work. I'm
like,
not crazy about
it. You know what?
Either.
There's like 3 small guys in that other company that actually made it as far as me. One was a luchador, and one was the sexy boy, and everybody else, it was the land of the giants. Like, do you think your struggle's that different from mine? And I mean, no matter who you put in, like, I don't think you could put roles on that. No matter who's face, no matter who's heel, Bryan could still play the underdog. Kingston could be sort of like, have that overwhelming quality that he has, because he's not a pretty fighter.
No.
But he's an artist with that not pretty style.
Exactly, because he's scrappy, yet he's strategic, yet he's strong style, yet he's stiff, but yet he's protective. It's really quite interesting. So
I like that.
I
like that. I've got somebody that I've picked for very similar reasons that we're going to talk about later on. Now, I'm going to cheat right off the bat because it's my show and why not? Technically somebody that was in WWE.
Okay.
I don't think they ever crossed paths, and definitely it's the AEW version of this person that I want to see face Bryan. I think he could push Bryan as a brawler. I think he could push Bryan from a technical perspective, and I think he would overwhelm Bryan from the endurance high flyer point of view. It's Pac.
Yeah.
I think the bastard Pac versus like the super babyface Daniel Bryan, like.
Yeah, because when Neville turned heel in the cruiserweight division, he was already in the cruiserweights. Yeah. So he was nowhere near Daniel. And Daniel Bryan, I don't believe, was wrestling again at that point in time.
I think it's in the time that he was out. It's interesting as
I think they passed, paths on the Indies, but I'm not.
Well, again, that would have been Pac, not necessarily Neville, right?
Yeah, but either which way, still, that would be. I don't think he's ever faced him as Pac and as a heel, so that would be so interesting.
I was gonna say, as most people know that are listening to this channel, you guys know right now I'm doing the NXT Rewind series, doing all the old NXT takeovers, and in the early days of Takeover, the champion was Adrian Neville. So to see the pack we have now and the Adrian Neville of early days NXT, and then to remember that sort of in the middle we got the King of the Cruiserweights, which was sort of like a beginning stage of me being able to see what Pac was outside of WWE.
Yeah, he was becoming... Enzo did kind of fuck him. He did screw him. I don't know a better way to put it than just he fucked him, but... And then, unfortunately, he could never get his revenge or anything because of the Enzo getting fired and then him walking out and all that. You know, he just didn't want to deal with it, so he walked out. He was done.
Spoiler alert, I don't know about Jake, but Enzo Amore is not on my list.
He's not on mine either, but I've got some surprises. So go ahead.
Yeah.
And
I do think just like I don't. This isn't going to turn into a big diatribe about AEW, but
no.
One thing I resented a lot when AEW first came along, and you had people leaving from WWE, and it's a big victory every time AEW grabs a WWE guy because AEW is going to save them all, and I don't necessarily agree with that. All the time.
Go to AEW. Oh, they're fired. Go to AEW. Now Zelina Vega's apparently going back to WWE.
There's a whole podcast of material there too, which is sad because I like Zelina Vega, so I don't want to shit on her
as
too
well.
much.
I mean, it's not what I want to see. I just want her to be happy, I guess. But
well, Aleister Black is finally starting to get a push again, so that's a thing. Aleister Black is somebody I should have put on this list, but he's in WWE.
Yeah, I know. Thankfully, there was quite a few WWE people I wanted to see. Adam Cole, and him had a great match. And I would love to see that again. Kyle O'Reilly would be, you know what I mean? There's a bunch of people, obviously, but straying away from WWE.
If the companies, right, and originally you and I were going to have a slightly different conversation about this because we thought when he left SmackDown he was going to go to NXT.
Yeah,
if the brands were more separate, like if NXT had a little bit of independence and you could like quote unquote leave WWE for NXT. There's an abundance of matches we could have there.
Oh my god!
I mean,
but you know what my dream would be? Honestly, I know we can even turn that into a video eventually, but just as a teaser, I would love more than anybody to see Pat McAfee versus Daniel Bryan.
Oh my god!
I think that they could tell such a great in-ring story together that would be so unbelievable and so easy to tell. I mean, Pat coming in and being like, "Oh, you used to be great, but you're not anymore," and that kind of thing. Like, look what I did against Adam Cole, and I lasted longer than you did, and you could say all these things, and my competition in War Games, it writes itself. Would be great.
Well,
but
we know that the branding of Takeover is still like one of the highest valued like brandings in WWE right now. And we also know there's a rumor that WWE might be going back to Madison Square Garden soon. Can you imagine, in an NXT context, Adam Cole versus Daniel Bryan at NXT TakeOver Madison Square Garden?
Oh my god, it would be...
That was a slight
explosive.
detour. That was a slight detour from what we're doing here. But no, just it is one of the times that I do have to give AEW a lot of credit because it was absolutely transformative to see when the guy that I knew as Adrian Neville or the King of the Cruiserweights show up in AEW as Pac for a version of him that I've never seen before. There's a version, and for all the different reasons, like all the different styles of fight that I just mentioned, like Daniel Bryan has all those dimensions, and it would be cool to see somebody that could almost mirror him in that way. So my first choice is Pac.
Yeah, I was already familiar with and enjoying the bastard, so that's why I was really excited that he was able to finally go ahead and be in AEW and then come back to AEW after dealing with not deportation, but all the travel issues and basically
they were just trying to get
travel to the country.
They were just trying to get that Death Triangle thing up off the ground as well.
Yeah, they wanted to make it believable. So.
Oh my God, it's not on my list. But never mind, you might have it on your list. I'm gonna leave that one alone. Anyway,
right,
who you got next?
My number 4 is for a bit of revenge or retribution or a kind of a story in a sense that I hate saying like, oh, it writes itself, but it does. Now this person just entered Impact, and here they are. They're redefining who they are as a person. It's W. Morrissey. That's right. The former 7 foot tall, and you can't teach that.
Yeah.
I would love to see him after what happened between him and Daniel Bryan, leading to him essentially getting fired in WWE, with the Daniel Bryan little person and everything that transpired there.
Oh my God! When he just came out and his whole promo was just saying, "Hey, I'm taller than you."
Exactly. It was ridiculous, and it was a terrible look, and didn't need to work out that way. So, what I'm hoping for, honestly, here is for retribution. Morrissey goes ahead and says, "Hey, you know, I
Wait a minute, retribution. You want to see Daniel Bryan versus Slapjack?
No, never again.
No.
But yeah, I think it would be a just real great story. I don't even care about the match. For me, this is all about the story. It led to me getting fired in WWE. Well, I'm a different person now, and I'm going to show you that. And he could be a heel and a face. He can get cheered and booed. Like there's endless possibilities of how you want to tell this and write it.
And the great thing about that, and we saw it in the later days of SmackDown before he left, is like he's a put over machine. So
Yes.
as much as you say it is about the story, it is about the characters, it's not about the match. The match would be great, and in that case, the one that benefits out of that 110% is Morrissey, and that's okay. Because I mean, like if you talk to, or not talk to, because I haven't talked to Daniel Bryan, I'm not one of those people. But if you hear him talk in interviews and whatever, he's about like putting it out there, not like he's not in there pulling a "what have you done for me lately." It's more like what can I dip my brush in?
For you now, yeah.
He's in the he wasn't reaching, like we said, he wasn't reaching for the Mania main event. He was trying to put like Gable and Otis and Cesaro and all these people over. So
yeah, he really was. He was not trying to make himself have something more than he deserved by any means. And
by the end of his time there, he looked so goddamn relaxed. Like, you gotta be happy for the guy.
Yes.
Like, I think it was one of those, like,
different...
like fans are bummed because they're not going to turn on the TV and they're not going to see him, but in the most positive way possible, as he did walk out, I don't think he cares.
No, I don't think
Like, he cares about the fans, obviously, but he's not, oh my God, I just left the big guy, where am I going now? Like, I think Daniel Bryan has that, like, awesome level of, I really don't give a shit. My wife is on 2 awesome TV shows, and they're Hall of Famers. Maybe I'll go home and be like the sexy house husband for a while or something. Like, I really don't, like, for somebody that I don't obviously know personally, I bet Daniel Bryan couldn't be paid to give a fuck.
Yeah, I really, money never motivated him anyways.
Yeah. I would love to pull up like No DQ and find out that like him and Punk showed up at some high school gym and just put on like some Broadway classic out of nowhere for no reason.
Yeah, a 60-minute
Iron Man in front of like 10 people in a gym with like a broken ring.
Could you imagine? Oh my God.
Speaking of smaller independent companies, and of course my biases, you knew that I was going to check it off the Spaz Phoenix bucket list.
I knew it was coming.
Current dual champion, Destiny World Wrestling champion, and Impact X Division champion, Josh Alexander.
Great choice there.
The guy is like, and this isn't about Brian. This is all about like me being a huge fan of Josh Alexander, but like, the guy is so fun to watch, and I've had so many opportunities to see him up close and personal.
Yeah. Once you were talking about, you know, the Fed so much, I eventually was checking him out on YouTube, and obviously he's their current like big star, being the champion and whatnot. So
he took the belt off Pete Dunne.
Yes. And I saw many matches, and he is just thoroughly impressive, and someone I was really hoping to get to see live eventually. So we'll see what happens with this.
It was Destiny wrestling, and me realizing so many of the wrestlers that I was starting to like there were also in Impact that got me to start watching Impact again.
Go figure.
It's where I figured it's like because Trey Miguel became the Destiny Next Gen champion, and Aiden Prince was a big presence on there. Kevin Blackwood is there. I saw MJF just before AEW started there.
I had a chance to see him when MLW came, and I was supposed to go, and then unfortunately I got sick and wasn't able to make it. And it was like, damn, that would have been one of the things to catch.
But it's so like the guy isn't a monster, like he's not huge, but he kind of wrestles like with the aura of a monster, but also like super technical. Like it's kind of obvious, but he's got the headset thing, so he's got a little bit of the Steiner brother vibe to him as well.
Yeah.
And he has this pile driver that he does, but he puts, and you've probably seen it if you've been watching videos, he puts a little bit of like a twist and a snap into it.
Oh yeah,
and
it's super effective.
If you consider, and you want to talk about story over match, if you think about all the issues that Daniel Bryan has had, build that entire match around that finisher and the fear that would be induced by the possibility of that finisher. And just the guy
kill people on the way up, like really killing people, like oh my god, this is insane, and then
I've seen him in Destiny, which is in a relatively small venue. It's called the Don Kolov Arena. I typically grab myself a front row seat. I've had the opportunity and the privilege of seeing this dude work up close and personal. The last match he had was a match that they had in the parking lot of the Don Kolov, because that's the only way we could do a show in COVID. And he fought against a guy that I had never seen before, which was Speedball Mike Bailey. And you need somebody like Alexander, and I wish I knew even more about him than I do, but I don't. You need somebody that is already established in your brain, like a Josh Alexander, to introduce you to a wrestler that you don't know. It's we always make the example of when there's somebody new coming into WWE who typically takes the job. It's Dolph Ziggler. On one side of the coin, well, poor Dolph Ziggler, because he's always taken the job. But there's an entirely different level of trust in that, because it takes a good wrestler to introduce other wrestlers.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, not that Daniel Bryan needs introducing, obviously, but like there's that built-in. And I would be selfish. I would want to see this at a Destiny show so I could grab a front row seat, obviously.
Who wouldn't want to see it?
But I mean, Josh Alexander, the real belt collector, the Destiny World Champion and current Impact X Division Champion. Just let him walk in there with both belts into Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan, a little bit of cocky, even though he's a babyface. I'll take that one, and I'll take that one. It'd be good. But like I say, not that I want to see anybody get hurt, not that I even want to mock the idea of anybody getting hurt, but just that twist into the pile driver. Just guys, if you're listening to me right now and you don't know what I'm talking about and you don't watch Impact, go find Destiny Wrestling on YouTube. Look for any match with Josh Alexander in it. It's so like the way he snaps it, like there's almost like a fuck you to it.
Huge, like,
and I think it's enough that you could build a whole match on it. Like I think you could.
Certainly could.
You could build a psychological match around just that, and I think it would be absolutely fantastic.
Yeah,
anyways,
total thriller.
So,
absolutely.
So that's how I'm going to get one of my dream matches in my own backyard at a Destiny show at the Don Kolov, Josh Alexander, double champion, versus Bryan Danielson, I guess, at that point.
Yes.
What do you got for us?
Unfortunately, it can't be Brody Lee, so I would want the Dark Order, of course, John Silver representing at number 3. I really like Johnny Hungy. I enjoy his in-ring ability and talent. Height be damned, he acts like he's 7 feet tall, even though he's barely over 5 feet, and he is just so incredibly strong. It is unreal what he can do. He's like a man possessed at times, and it's incredible. So I would love to see his strength play into already Daniel Bryan's small stature. Bryan's not this big guy to begin with, so that would be interesting to see as well. And add the Dark Order, throwing in some skits and some comedy with Daniel Bryan. You go back to the Team Hell No days. We know he could do it with the comedy. I think it would be funny, not stupid, and enjoyable with Daniel Bryan. He certainly has a good grasp on non-stupid comedy for the most part. I felt like all the stuff he did with Kane was believable and funny, not totally ridiculous. There was a couple of things, but nothing too unforgivable.
I don't know if you'd lean this way or not, but I think, like you say, based on the comedy, like super serious, like losing his shit heel Daniel Bryan versus thing would be perfect. Like Daniel Bryan, as funny as he can be, could be the straight man for somebody like that, and it would be really good. And he could sell that. Who else does it really well? Johnny Gargano does it really well. When there's somebody else losing their shit in the other corner, that even though he's sort of the veteran, the holy fuck, what have I gotten myself into?
Yeah.
While Johnny Hungy's like freaking out or headbutting the turnbuckle or something to that effect.
Yeah, whatever it goes through, and especially with the Dark Order being involved, like they don't have to cheat, but they could make it funny, and that could also lead to like maybe him and Hangman Page. I don't know how they'd want to pull it off, but they could do a lot with it, I think.
Yeah, that's another thing too. Like with a choice like that, you've got a match already, but with association with
Dark Order,
not,
you could just keep going through.
Yeah,
matches.
I was gonna say not being rude, but somebody like a Hangman Page who's a little higher up the card, like that could be match to build a match done in the best way possible.
Well, that's what I'm
but
saying.
I think
Dark Order build the Hangman Page match, like that would be the purpose of that.
that's really good. That's not one I would have thought of at all. I'm having a hard time imagining how fun that would be, because I almost think, you hear wrestlers say it all the time. Oh, occasionally we were in this situation that was so ridiculous. I went into that match like determined to make them crack or make them laugh or something like that. You know that they'd be in there with somebody like Bryan, they're determined to like break the stern heel. Because Daniel Bryan, when he was the heel, especially when he was like the environmental guy, like the lecturing heel, he had a way of like doing things with his face that made his face seem really long and like drawn out and disappointed. Like he had that parental, like, I'm not angry, I'm disappointed.
I'm disappointed.
Look.
Yeah.
If you picture like all the Disney villains have like the really long face, like he's not animated, but he managed to do that type of thing. And I think all the young guys in the Dark Order, specifically, like you say, John Silver, would be almost on a mission to like make them crack. And I think that could be, if you presented the match the right way, if you presented it in such a way that, hey guys, just know in advance this isn't going to be totally serious. Yeah. The whole idea of them trying to make him crack, or if he's the bad guy, making him come back to the light side, to like a Star Wars type story, that would be like not literally, but you know what I mean. Like, hey buddy, I don't know why you're so mad. We just want to show you some love. If we gotta beat you up a little bit first, to then show you some love, like. Because Dark Order are so acceptedly goofy at this point.
Yes,
that
but
something
like
that
like
can entirely
magic
work.
And the Alexa Bliss thing where they're disappearing and
yeah,
thankfully, so it's
no, but like they do
ridiculous.
goofy shit, but like it's sort of like a knowing goofiness. Gargano again, I have to go back to Gargano in the Way and how Austin Theory plays the idiot, but it's so like with a wink and a nod to the camera because do you know what that opens up? Because you said Hangman Page. But that would open up the possibility of Daniel Bryan versus Colt Cabana.
Yeah,
that would be amazing. Like you've opened up, you've taken up your one slot here with like 10 matches.
Exactly,
possibility.
I cheated, but hey.
All right, so I got to come up with something that's as fun as that, right?
Well, hey, it's not a competition,
I mean, it is when I win.
I mean, if your viewers are leaving it down in the comments and see who they'll side with, but no, it's not a competition.
Well, I hope the viewers. Okay, I hope anybody's leaving any comments in the comment section. Let's be real. But I hope the viewers down in the comment section below are adding some of their own people, some of their own suggestions for people that they want to see. Or if you're listening or watching live, put it in the chat in the side.
They're wrestling fans. They're going to chime in.
Love the chime in. It's good.
That's right.
And by the time this goes out, it'll be just after SmackDown. People will be nice and tired. They'll be nice and loopy. We'll get all kinds of suggestions. We'll get like Daniel Bryan versus Chris Statlander because Daniel Bryan is out of this world. Oh no. Okay, we're not talking about Daniel Bryan for 2 seconds. Chris Statlander versus Cameron Grimes. Because to find Chris Statlander, Cameron Grimes had to go to the moon.
Well, she's had some pretty damn good intergender matches. Yeah,
I should be
just
stopped.
Like Candice LeRae, obviously.
Wish I could make Candice LeRae into Candice LeLay, but we don't live in that world. I want to live.
She is the way.
Yes, this is the way, not Sasha Banks. So I got to go sort of lean away from the comedy because you gave us the comedy. I got to bring us the other way a little bit. Got to lean away from the comedy, away from WWE, away from AEW, away from Impact. I got to lean all the way into something that I don't really have any familiarity with whatsoever, which is New Japan. Somebody that I've only seen in NXT, but I want to see the non-NXT version of. And I think, as we said before, like the whole, you need to be a great wrestler to introduce me to a wrestler.
Yes.
I want to see Daniel Bryan versus Kenta.
Now that's a great choice.
If for no other reason than to just watch them kick the shit out of each other.
Yeah, because I felt like we got robbed of that ever happening, and it felt like it was a real possibility for a while, and then things just didn't line up, and I really don't know why. Like, it just that shouldn't have been the case, but it was. So it's unfortunate.
He ran into like a big string of injuries right now.
Yeah, he just kept getting injured over and over and over again, and that was the unfortunate nature of it.
Like we talked about, I was actually watching a What Culture thing earlier today about people and their injuries and when we can see them back and whatever. And the one we keep going back to is Tegan Nox, because that's fucking tragic.
Yes,
but
she's been essentially
she's had the same injury 3 times.
Like with her knee.
But the one that gets lost in the shuffle is like the rotating series of injuries that kept Kenta in and out, which is unfortunate because like at the top point of his NXT career, he was going up against Bobby Roode back when Bobby Roode was still good for the NXT champion.
Guy, not the Dirty Dogs.
Hey, I like the Dirty Dogs, but you know, I got to be realistic. But no, like he had a takeover NXT championship match against good Bobby Roode.
Yeah, exactly. So
like, and then it all sort of fell away. But honestly, I don't know enough about New Japan, and I don't know enough about who can, like we talked about before with Neville turning into Pac.
Yes.
And I've seen that because of AEW. Credit to AEW where it's deserved, because I take the piss out of them enough. But I don't watch New Japan. So I don't know what Kenta...
I used to watch heavily years ago when Balor was there.
Yes. You mean Fergal Devitt?
Club and, Prince Devitt.
But yeah, no, and
the creation of the Bullet Club and everything that came about with that, and that's when I was watching, more regularly, and then I just got out of it because it became more difficult to follow when they changed, like their provider thing when they got their new own network thing, and it was just a pain. I didn't keep up with it enough, so.
Yeah, but it's almost a sense of I need it to be Daniel Bryan because I already know what Daniel Bryan is, so I don't have to focus on Daniel Bryan. So let Daniel Bryan be the one that shows me what this other wrestling world is like, and what this guy that I thought I knew because I watched him in NXT was like, and just watch them kick the shit out of each other. And considering some of the best matches that I liked of Daniel Bryan in WWE as a whole were his matches with CM Punk, which were few and far between, to put him up against just a random other guy that can kick the shit out of him and still give him a GTS. Like, there is a little bit of storyline synergy there if you want to pick away at it.
Yeah, and they have a similar style to a certain extent, too. So.
Or if you want to get really, really meta, you have Daniel Bryan, or Bryan Danielson, I should say, versus Kenta with a masked referee. Masked referee sees Kenta go for the GTS, takes the mask off. It's CM Punk. GTS to Kenta, GTS to Daniel Bryan. Best in the world!
Scenarios I've heard. Oh my god, that one's great, but
but no, like I don't really have anything like super deep divey to say about it, other than I just want to see these guys kick and strike the shit out of each. Whereas before, what I said about Pac, like, hey, we know that Bryan can do this, and this, and we know that Pac can do this, and this. Let's watch both of them show us everything they can do. I'm way more specific with this, and I just want to see them smack the shit out of each other. And that's about it. It's good. So far, we haven't had any doubles, so I haven't had to use any of my secondary honorable mentions.
I have not had to either. So
this is good so far. So let's see if we.
We'll see. We're kind of coming up. My number 2 here. It's kind of an obvious choice, but I would love white meat, babyface Daniel Bryan coming out of Wisconsin, wearing flannel, best he could, going against the ultimate heel that I love, MJF. This again, the match would be the creme de la creme of everything, but the story that they could tell with the promos, similar to what they're doing now with the Pinnacle Inner Circle. I mean, MJF was a star last night. The promo he cut was phenomenal. He's been, the guy to watch, and I love his opinion too. How he's tired of everybody, doing all the flippy shit out there and killing themselves, not going to be able to walk in a couple of years. He wants to bring back psychology to wrestling and make it less about spots. I love that.
I do think it's awesome, though, because he gets booed because he's out there saying what some of the fans say, but what he's saying is, hey, fans, that opinion that you have, it's my opinion too, so you guys are heels too.
Yes, exactly. I love it. And if if it falls back on him in any negative light, he can just literally say, "Oh, I'm just saying it as a heel. I'm in character," so he could be defended too.
Okay, I might be a total asshole. I want to see MJF cut a promo on Daniel Bryan's kids.
Oh yeah, I would love to see MJF just eviscerate Daniel Bryan best he could, and then Daniel Bryan, comes out and just lays him out, and then it turns into this stellar feud. And I would have MJF win, obviously, but
gets a slap from Brie.
Yeah, really, really make it.
Or he either gets a slap from Brie, or
Yeah.
he's like cutting the promo on Daniel, and it's not having any effect, and he turns to Brie, who's like in the corner, and just starts spewing some of the raunchiest shit.
Sadly, I don't think they can use Brie, and I know it's fantasy, but even still, because they're
I mean, obviously, if she was available,
Yeah. It sucks that's the reality of it, though, that if he does leave, he can't even go with his wife to places because she's still captured there. Property of.
Hey, I mean, it worked for Shawn Spears and Peyton Royce.
Oh, and I mean, that's part of the reason why Zelina Vega is apparently going back to WWE is because her husband is still contracted for some time, and on top of it, he doesn't really want to leave. He likes the story that I guess they have coming up for him. He's gone through some great physical transformations with his body. He looks better than ever, so I guess they have big plans for him.
I guess the Twitch game wasn't too nice to her. Anyways, what? I didn't say that.
That was your number two, or my number two, excuse me, and what would be your number two?
Stretching the definition of, hey, they can both do this, so I think it would be a good match. I don't doubt that he can, but I've never really seen Daniel Bryan as, a really, intentionally hardcore guy. I'd never really seen him as, a deathmatch guy. I've never really seen him as, somebody who would have, tipped the top at, an ECW, the stereotype of ECW type of thing, right? It's not... I don't doubt that he could do it, but he's not one that I would put in that scenario typically.
Yeah.
Is that a fair thing to say?
No, that makes sense.
So let me take Daniel Bryan completely out of his element, throw him in a no-holds-barred, whatever you want to call it, dark match, lights-out match, whatever you want to call it, with the Callahan Death Machine.
Ooh.
Sami Callahan versus Daniel Bryan. Now,
it was on my list. You finally got one, bud.
Okay.
About time.
That's okay. I got somebody else that I can No.
But what I'm saying is, I'm glad we finally had one that was on there. He was my tie for number one, actually. So that's
nice.
In case you had mentioned one, I said I've got one more that I want to have. So
gotcha.
Callahan on my list here for a damn good reason. The current purveyor of violence, really forget Tommy Dreamer. He is crazy bastard, and I would love to see what he could do. Like you said, taking Daniel Bryan out of his element really could be something stellar. I'm all about that. That's my word of the night. But hey,
I mean, I didn't see him very much until very recently on Impact, since he left NXT as Solomon Crow, and I didn't know what I was missing. But he was in a really weird. He was in a really weird position in Impact when I sort of started catching what they were doing there, because he was the champion. He was trying to be the champion, but still do all hardcore shit and cage matches and barbed wire and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And we were integrating this idea that Tessa Blanchard was going for the big main world title.
Yeah,
And
she was going to take the belt from him.
And you were integrating, okay, not only is she going to go for the title, but we're going to throw her in a men's hardcore match.
Environment
exactly. With somebody like Sami Callihan.
She's going to prosper, too.
And she did prosper, for sure. But there's so much...
So
there's so many different ways... For him, I think there's a lot on the line, like outside of the storyline, outside of the in-ring work. There's so much that could have gone bad with that for him to take that on his shoulders, to be like, okay, she's going to do this, and I'm going to be the one that helps her do this, but, okay, if they put her in a hardcore match with a dude and she gets hurt, the company's going to get shit on, obviously, but, Callahan's going to be blackmarked.
Yeah,
unfortunate as, and that's not any fault of Blanchard, obviously, but he was put in such a unique position with all those different elements that I was just like, he just pulled it off like it was nothing. And he maintained, while he must have had so much going on in his head, he maintained that I absolutely don't give a fuck mentality and presentation. And like,
but you can tell he was striving to make it work.
Yeah, like you could tell, like here's a guy who looked at a female, like Tessa Blanchard is not your typical female, let's be real. But still, looking across the ring at
certainly stockier and built,
Yeah, and she's a badass. Let's be real.
She is, but she's built like that prototypical wrestler too.
Not politically popular, but she's a badass. But still, take all that away, there's still this guy standing across the ring with every single piece of sharp metal you can imagine, and making you totally believe that he's going to cut this woman up.
Yeah,
and not flinching in that role. I think that's so. Now, Impact does intergender wrestling anyway, so there's a little bit of leeway there.
Yeah,
but that was such a unique role.
I hate to be like, oh, that's sick, but it was in a good and bad way. Like, oh, that's violent and sadistic.
But I don't think
really
in the modern landscape of wrestling, and you can, Jake, you can let me know if I'm straying into hyperbole here. I don't think there's any more, not necessarily difficult, but I don't think there's any more unique situation you could put a male wrestler in these days.
No, there's really not. You're not being hyperbolic at all there. I don't think. I think that's a perfect, statement, because that's really just how it's going at this point.
And I think it's funny as well, because in most of these scenarios, I would be looking to Daniel Bryan to make the other guy look good. But I think in this case, you sort of put the shoe on the other foot, because it's sort of in Callahan's wheelhouse. So I think there would be an element of him sort of bringing Daniel through. Not because Daniel needs help as a wrestler, obviously, but here's all this fucked up shit we're doing, and I do this fucked up shit every day. Let me show you how to do it safely and not break your face. Oh, speaking of, and it's not even a Sami Callihan thing, but just thinking of sick spots, the last Impact pay-per-view, and it wasn't even Sami Callihan, it was Josh Alexander winning the X Division Championship from Trey Miguel. He got body slammed on they had flipped a table upside down.
Yeah, I saw the GIF.
And he slammed him back first on the legs of the table.
Like the U of the leg. So he landed perfectly in between. It was like, oh dear God.
Like that's one of those things
Yikes.
that's not gross, but it is gross.
Exactly. It was painful to be
to pull off that kind of stuff.
Major flinch.
So now to take that to the even more visceral levels that a Sami Callihan would say, it's like, Daniel, we know you're a hell of a wrestler, but let me show you how we do this without dying.
Yeah, exactly.
I think this is one of the only ones that I'm going to bring up where I think Daniel Bryan would be the one that needs to be put over, because he's out of his element. Sort of like Foley.
Because he's not a hardcore guy.
Foley put over Edge at WrestleMania in a hardcore match, so that Edge could sort of have the blessing of the hardcore guy in the hardcore match.
Yeah.
I would want to see Daniel Bryan go over, and again, not in any real way, not in any actual injury type way, but an absolutely desperate, blood-soaked, victorious Daniel Bryan.
Oh, that would be great.
It'd be fantastic.
It would be so entertaining. Absolutely.
All right. So you got a number one.
Number one. I originally wanted Sami Callihan. It's funny that you said that, but I have an ultimate replacement, and it is, drumroll please, Luther. The Japanese? No, I'm kidding. It's Marco Stunt. Now, listen, Marco Stunt. No, really, it's.
Sorry, you said Luther, and I thought Wardlow for some reason. That's why I was actually thinking about what my response was going to be.
Jericho's best friend and Japanese deathmatch legend, Luther, finally doing something that isn't nothing.
Something that isn't nothing. You got a main event because it's your friend's birthday.
Basically, you get to claim, the extra tokens at the Chuck E. Cheese. That's how it feels.
Oh my God.
So my number one is Sammy Guevara. I am captivated by him as a, as
you want to know what's really bad? Can I tell you something really quick?
What's that?
When I said Callahan, and you said you also had Callahan, I looked at the brackets next to Callahan.
Yeah.
And in the brackets next to Sammy Callahan, I have Sammy Guevara.
Oh, do you? See? So I stole one of yours then. I do. I have Sammy Callahan and Sammy Guevara.
So you're going to have to come up with one more then, because I took one of yours.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to have to use one of your alternates as well.
One of my alternates would be Brian Cage. Yeah, but Sammy Guevara, I am all about. I want to see Sammy Guevara face heel, no matter what they do with him. He's so exciting in the ring, and I think that would just be so much fun to have them just destroy each other and do some crazy stuff. Sammy's willing to put his body through hell. So is Daniel, and I think they could do some really wild stuff.
You say Daniel Bryan and Sammy Guevara. You know what I immediately think of?
What's that?
Bret Hart versus Eddie Guerrero.
Ooh, yeah, that does have that kind of feel to it.
And I'm not just saying, I'm not trying to do the typical, so-and-so is the next so-and-so, but, that's the amount of respect I would put on that match. And to be fair, a lot of that credit goes to Jericho and all the work that Jericho's done with Guevara to get him over. But
yeah,
God
no
damn.
Doubt about it, but...
Again, it's one of those situations where I could sort of see, like you say, face or heel, but Daniel Bryan would have to be kind of the straight guy to let Sammy Guevara's obnoxiousness just sort of fill the ring.
Yeah.
And I think it would be one of those technical matches where, every time Sammy Guevara goes to do something really cocky, and Daniel Bryan's just like, nope, and, swats it away. Or, goes for an arm. Okay, you go for an arm, I'll take your leg. You kick my dog, I'll kick your cat type of match. It's, I would plot that out as, a slow, kind of embarrassing, a gradual, accelerating humbling of Sammy Guevara. And I would do it to such a point where it ends, it would go to a fever pitch, and it would meet its absolute point of frustration and whatever, and then end it on a handshake, because they've both taken something from each other, and it's all story. We've said it in a bunch of these matches now. It's all story. Josh Alexander breaking Daniel Bryan's neck with the twisting powerbomb is a story. Kenta kicking the shit out of Daniel Bryan is a story. Pac being the mirror image of Daniel Bryan is that's such a good shout.
Some way for his life, in the end, and doing this crazy stuff. All of it, yeah. Exactly. Right. It all lines up. So who's your number one then?
My number one. For anybody, because I don't talk about AEW much on my channel, because I'm the NXT guy. I'm the guy that's super biased. I'm secretly getting paid off by Triple H, apparently, even though just no. I would love to have that kind of money. I would love to be Scrooge McDuckin and clucking on that kind of money, but I'm just not.
Wouldn't we all?
Well, true. Also, shagging Stephanie isn't a bad, perk. Two perks. I should have had a better joke there. It just didn't happen. But anybody that has heard me talk at any length about AEW, I've mentioned Guevara, who we've already talked about. I've mentioned Jungle Boy, who's not on my list, unfortunately. I've mentioned MJF, who you've already talked about. Yes. And up until last night, the TNT champion, Darby Allin.
Yeah, I had a feeling you were going to choose him. That's honestly the only reason why I didn't have him selected. I figured I kind of assumed that would be a Spaz choice. So,
Darby Allin to me is as obvious a choice as Kenny Omega is to the broader audience. If you put this out to a survey,
he's one of the most over now as well. So exactly, he's got himself, really over as far as AEW's audience is concerned, and he's doing a lot of great things. So
he's one of those guys though, and I know it's getting old. The the comparisons between Darby Allin and Jeff Hardy, but I'll draw a more generic comparison. Hold on, my headset's caught on something, which is always awesome. I'll draw a more generic comparison to Darby Allin now to early days Hardy Boys in general. It's a rare thing in wrestling. Why am I beeping? Why is that a thing? I don't think, and I mean, Darby Allin did get himself over. Don't let me say that he didn't. But I don't think it's as much that he got himself over as the crowd took one look at this kid and adopted him.
Yeah, they just were like,
and there's
hey,
such a
guy's...
genuine, like, we want to see him go out there and have the kind of matches that he has where he kills himself, but also we want to wrap him in bubble wrap and make sure nothing happens to him ever. Like, it's those two things in equal measure.
Him get hurt.
And I just think, like, in a different way, in a more realistic character type of way, WWE fans did the same thing with Daniel Bryan, and I think...
Oh, absolutely.
I think this is a situation... The match would be great. I mean, Daniel Bryan... It would be one of the few situations where Daniel Bryan would be the slower wrestler in the ring. Like, your example of John Silver would be another one, because he's a little firecracker, right?
Yeah,
But Darby Allin is, like... Have you ever played... You've played the 2K games, right?
Yes.
You know when you get into certain levels of the career mode and they put you in a challenge where, like, the whole game operates at like 1.5 speed and it's not quite realistic?
Yes.
Darby has that.
He has that in real life, absolutely.
And he moves in a way, and it's not just like, oh, there he goes, he's speeding up, he's now running fast, he's bouncing quickly or whatever. He moves in a way that doesn't look like it's happening in real time.
Yes.
And that's a convoluted way for me to say what I'm saying, but, like, I mean it in the most positive way possible. To have a match where Daniel Bryan is the guy, like, not struggling, but he, like, the focus is on him, is like, can he keep up with Darby Allin? Whereas you put Daniel Bryan in a lot of the matches he's had with a lot of the giants that he's fought, all the giants have had to follow him. So for him to follow Darby, and again, like your John Silver example, how many matches is Daniel Bryan in where he's the bigger guy?
Yeah.
Like, it's... And I mean, just, he's going to know everything he needs to do to get everything that Darby has out. And I think it's
absolutely.
It's
He's
such
gonna know how to handle it, how to damage, and he'll have the strategy from being a veteran. Yeah. So that's always good to see how he can capitalize as well.
It would be interesting to see, and again, I don't want to focus on Daniel Bryan and all the injuries that he's had and whatever. So obviously, there's certain things he has to do to take care of himself in the ring.
But I think they're willing to make sure that he's okay. They're going to do what's right by Daniel. So.
Yeah, no, I'm just my point in saying that is he has had to obviously find ways to take care of himself in the ring. It would be really weird, or it would be really, I guess, interesting is the word, to see how that meshes with Darby Allin, who very clearly does not give a fuck.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, Daniel Bryan would... I think the one danger of this match is you run the risk of Daniel Bryan being the wrestler that looks like he's holding back. But again, that's by necessity, and that's when you throw it to the commentary to, like, smooth that part of the story over. And commentary, depending on who it is not...
Exactly. They could build it and put it over, so...
Yeah, they can. Hold on. Talk for a second.
Yeah, no doubt about it, but when you go through the list, I mean, Jay White was somebody else that I considered, Brian Cage... I mean, obviously Orange Cassidy we neither mentioned, but he's another one as well, so...
There we go.
Yeah, I mean, Orange Cassidy's certain one we didn't mention. I said Jay White as another one I had on my list. Brian Cage I spoke of briefly before, but...
Yeah. Jay White's not anybody I can speak anything of, even though I've heard his name a bunch of times. I have not seen a single Jay White match.
He's a better version of Seth Rollins at this point.
You've mentioned that to me. You have mentioned that to me. I gotta say, my one sort of secondary pick was Guevara. The other two, one of them's an old school. Like, I got a little bit of a soft spot in my heart for TNA back when it was good, so I got Kazarian on there.
There you go.
Because the guy's just a solid pro. He's
he's a classic.
He's Randy Orton if Randy Orton was a cruiserweight.
Yes, he and Daniels always deliver. So.
Yeah, the other one, just because I think it would be hilarious, is Orange Cassidy.
Yeah, That's another one that I'd said, that we didn't really consider, but I think he's certainly a stellar name. That's a top contender right now. He's going to be going against Omega in that triple threat, and he's built his name up. So
you know what I want to see? And I know you have to go because you have to go do Joe things. I get that.
Yes, indeed.
The one showdown I do want to see in the ring is the Orange Cassidy, I don't give a shit kicks versus the Daniel Bryan yes kicks. So it'd be like
exactly that would be hilarious.
So it'd be like smack, smack.
Yeah, you get the audience and chanting yes at the same time. That would be.
No, but the thing would be is Daniel Bryan would sell more than Orange Cassidy, and that would be the gag.
Yes, and that would be hilarious for him to sell for once.
No, what would be hilarious is if we put out this podcast and then it's been announced that, hey, next week Daniel Bryan has re-signed with WWE. We welcome him back to his next 5-year contract. And
yeah, I could see this happening because of his wife and money and.
And at that point, you send him to NXT. At that point, you send him to NXT and have takeover matches with Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly and Finn Balor and fucking Daniel Bryan versus Pete Dunne, man. It has to happen. It does.
It really does.
It does. Or, if he was still in his prime, no offense, Daniel Bryan versus prime William Regal.
Now that would be excellent.
Anyways, I think we've gotten way more than 10, considering the title of this is going to be 10 cool matches Daniel Bryan could have or something like that. And it's been good to have you back, buddy. Good to hear you back in the land of the living.
Thank you.
Very, very quickly, because I know you got one foot out the door already. Tell people where to find you.
You can find me at Twitter at Countdown Ended, or you can go ahead and find me on The Joe Cronin Show.
And you guys know where to find me, or you wouldn't be here. I've been Spaz. He's been Jake. We are typically your NXT reality check, except not this time. So, fantasy booking reality check. I just fucked up the outro. Subscribe up there. Talk down there. Start a conversation. Keep all these conversations going. Don't be a stranger. I will talk to each and every last one of you later. But for right now, me and the man, the myth, the legend, super sexy Jake DeMarco are tagging out. Bye, guys.
Yeah, baby.